Marcus Elliott hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. Between the night shifts at the warehouse, packing Lily's lunch before sunrise, braiding her hair the way she liked, 2 loose plaits with the little white rubber bands she picked out herself, and making sure her homework was done. Sleep had become a luxury he simply couldn't afford. But he never complained, not once. Because every morning when Lily came downstairs in her little pink backpack and said, "Daddy, do I look okay?" Marcus would look at his 7-year-old daughter like she was the only good thing the universe had ever made, and say, "Baby, you look perfect." That was enough. That kept him going. Her mother had left when Lily was 2. No note, no goodbye, no custody fight, just gone. And Marcus, 26 years old at the time, standing in an empty apartment with a toddler on his hip and a heart that felt like someone had taken a hammer to it, made a decision that night. He decided Lily would never feel that emptiness. She would never go to bed wondering if she was loved. He would be both parents, even if it broke him. And some days it came close. Lily was in 2nd grade at Maplewood Elementary. She was quiet, sensitive, the kind of child who cried at cartoons and kept worms from the sidewalk in a jar so they wouldn't dry out in the sun. She loved drawing. Every afternoon she came home with something, a horse, a rainbow, a picture of her and Marcus holding hands under a sun with a smiley face. He had them all on the refrigerator. There wasn't much room left. Her teacher was Miss Patricia Holloway, mid-50s, 20 years in the classroom, the kind of woman who had long stopped seeing children as children and had started seeing them as either capable or inconvenient. Lily, with her quiet nature and occasional daydreaming, had landed firmly in the 2nd category. The first few weeks of school, Marcus noticed Lily getting quieter at dinner. She used to talk nonstop about the butterflies she saw on the playground, about her friend Amara's new sneakers, about whatever random fact she'd learned that day. Suddenly, she was just pushing food around her plate. He asked her what was wrong. She said nothing. He asked again, softer this time, "The way you speak to someone who's afraid of the sound of their own truth." She said, "Ms. Holloway says I'm slow." Marcus set his fork down. "She said that to you?" Lily nodded, not looking up. In front of everyone. "I didn't finish my reading sheet in time," and she said, "Some of us are just slower than others." "Lily, and that's okay, but you need to catch up." She mimicked the voice with an eerie accuracy that made Marcus's chest tighten. Everybody laughed, Daddy. He kept his face calm for her. He reached across the table and held her small hand. "Did that hurt you?" She nodded again, and her bottom lip trembled just slightly before she pulled it back in. The way she'd learned to do, the way children learn to swallow things that are too big for them. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, baby." That night after she was asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table for a long time. He wasn't angry in the explosive way some people expected a man in his position to be. His anger was colder, more focused. He thought about how many times Lily had probably replayed that moment. How many times she'd heard those words in her head during recess, during lunch, lying in bed the night it happened. He thought about the kind of damage a careless adult can do to a child in 30 seconds without even knowing it. Or maybe she did know. That was the part he couldn't let go. He sent an email to the school that night requesting a parent-teacher conference. Professional, polite, specific. He included the date, the incident, and the impact it had on his daughter. No threats, no accusations, just facts, laid out with the quiet precision of a man who'd learned that the loudest rooms don't always get heard. Ms. Holloway responded the next morning with a tone that suggested she was doing him a favor by agreeing to meet. She said she had no recollection of the incident, but was happy to clear up any misunderstanding. Marcus read it twice, closed his laptop, and went to braid Lily's hair. The meeting was on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus wore his cleanest work shirt, pressed the night before. He sat in the small plastic chair across from Ms. Holloway's desk, the kind of chair designed for children, and he didn't fidget, didn't cross his arms, didn't do any of the things people do when they're trying to hold themselves together. Ms. Holloway sat across from him with the principal, Mr. David Chen, beside her. She had her grade book open like it was a shield. She started by explaining that she ran a high-expectation classroom and that sometimes children misinterpret direct feedback. She said Lily was a sweet girl but struggled to focus. She said she hoped Marcus wasn't reading too much into a sensitive child's perspective. That last sentence, Marcus let it sit in the air for a moment. Then he reached into the folder he'd brought and placed a sheet of paper on the desk. It was Lily's reading assessment from kindergarten. Advanced for her age. He placed another one beside it, a drawing Lily had done at home. Detailed, imaginative, with a full story written beneath it in her careful handwriting. He'd had it there not to show off, but to show something very specific. "My daughter isn't slow," he said. Not loud, not aggressive, just absolutely certain. "She's a 7-year-old who is told in front of her classmates that she is. And whether you meant it the way she heard it or not, the damage is done." She came home and didn't want to talk. She stopped raising her hand in class according to 3 other kids. "I spoke to this week. That matters." Ms. Holloway opened her mouth. Marcus held up one hand gently. "I'm not finished." She closed it. "I work nights. I come home at 5 in the morning, make her breakfast, make sure she's ready, take her to school, sleep 3 hours, pick her up, help with homework, cook dinner, and do it again. I don't say that for sympathy. I say it so you understand that I am paying attention every single day. I know my daughter, and what you said to her was wrong." The room was quiet. Mr. Chen cleared his throat. He was looking at Marcus with an expression that had shifted somewhere during the last 2 minutes. Less administrator, more human. Ms. Holloway said carefully, "I understand you're concerned." "I'd like Lily moved to Mrs. Tran's class," Marcus said. "I've already spoken to the district office. I know it's possible mid-semester. I'm asking you to approve it without making it difficult." Another silence. Mr. Chen looked at Ms. Holloway. Something passed between them, not a conspiracy. More like an acknowledgement of something that had probably been a long time coming. "That can be arranged," Mr. Chen said. Marcus nodded once, gathered his papers, and stood. He looked at Ms. Holloway for a moment, not with hatred, not with triumph, just with the clear, steady look of a man who had done what he came to do. "Thank you for your time," he said, and left. The change happened faster than he expected. Within a week of moving to Mrs. Tran's class, Lily came home talking again, about a science project with seeds, about how Mrs. Tran let her draw her answers sometimes, instead of writing them if she understood the concept, about a new girl named Sophia who liked horses too. Marcus listened to all of it. He never rushed her, never checked his phone while she talked, never let her feel like she was taking up too much space. Because he knew, and from his own childhood, from watching what absence does to a person, that the most important thing he could give her wasn't things. It was presence, consistent, unshakable presence. 2 months later, Mrs. Tran called him in for a different kind of conference. She was a small woman with kind eyes and 31 years of teaching behind her. She had Lily's work spread across the table, drawings, writing samples, a reading comprehension test with a perfect score at the top. "I wanted you to see this," she said. Marcus looked at the papers. He picked up the reading test carefully, the way you hold something fragile. "She tested at a 4th grade reading level," Mrs. Tran said. "In November. She's exceptional. Mr. Elliot, not just academically, she's emotionally intelligent. She's creative, and she has more empathy in 1 day than most adults manage in a month." She paused. "Whatever you're doing at home, please don't stop." Marcus didn't trust his voice for a moment. He looked at a drawing Lily had made, a picture of a man and a little girl. The man very tall, the girl very small, both of them holding hands, and above them in Lily's handwriting, the words, "My daddy is my hero." He pressed his lips together. "She made that the first week," Mrs. Tran said softly. "I asked the class to draw someone important to them." Marcus set the drawing down on the table and looked at it for a long time. In it he was wearing what looked like a cape, Lily's creative addition, and there were stars around them both. She had colored his skin carefully, brown like his and her own, and drawn big smiles on both their faces. It was the most honest portrait anyone had ever made of him. Not the tired man at the warehouse, not the man sitting in a too small chair defending his daughter's intelligence, not the man who ate cold leftovers at midnight and fell asleep with the lights on. This was who he was to her. This was the version of himself he'd been building every single day, without knowing if it was enough. It was enough. He folded the drawing carefully, tucked it into his shirt pocket, and thanked Mrs. Tran. He shook her hand. He walked to his car. He sat in the parking lot for maybe 5 minutes, not crying exactly, but not crying either. Somewhere in between, the way men sometimes, or when the weight of something finally lifts and they feel the space where it used to be. He thought about the woman who left. He thought about 4 a.m. mornings and cold coffee and homework he'd had to Google how to explain. He thought about every birthday he'd planned alone, every nightmare he'd sat up through, every time Lily had been sick and he'd had to choose between the hospital and the rent and had somehow always found a third option. He thought about all of it, and he didn't feel bitterness anymore. He felt something else, something quieter. He felt like he'd won. That evening, he picked Lily up from the after-school program. She ran to him the way she always did, full speed, backpack bouncing, completely unconcerned with anything except getting to him as fast as possible. He caught her and lifted her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. And for a second, they just stayed like that in the middle of the sidewalk, while other parents moved around them. "Good day?" he asked. "The best," she said into his shoulder. He held her a little tighter than usual. She didn't ask why. She just held on too. And in that ordinary moment, in front of a school on a regular Thursday afternoon, with the sun going low and the air turning cold and nothing particularly remarkable happening in the world around them, Marcus Elliott understood something, completely and finally, and without any doubt at all. He understood that he had not just survived this. He had built something real, something strong, something no classroom, no absent mother, no careless word from a tired teacher could ever take apart. He had built a daughter who drew him with a cape, who ran to him like he was the finish line. That was his life's work, and it was extraordinary.